Every 6 months, thousands of people gather at Pura Bukit Buluh in Bali. As you can see in this photograph, massive crowds carry elaborate offerings into the ornate stone temple for a major ritual. They are coming together to worship a figure known as Rare Angon, a simple shepherd boy. But the person they are honoring didn't start his life in the fields. He was actually born a prince in a neighboring kingdom. Looking at this royal family tree, we see his true origins. He was born Satria Wangsa, the royal son of Dalem Mangori, the king of Keling in East Java, and raised by his mother Ni Barat Kuning. So we have a direct heir to a powerful Javanese throne. Why is he stripped of his royal titles, living in exile on another island, and being revered centuries later as a peasant who watched over cows? According to local oral histories, specifically a text called the Babad Tutuan, the prince's life derailed after a sudden tragedy. He was struck by a dark curse, an event that culminated in the accidental death of his own younger sibling. He brought this terrible news directly to his father. The moment he confessed, his position at court dissolved. Stripped of his standing, the young prince was banished. He was forced to leave the Javanese kingdom behind, with no path to return. He lost his home, his future crown, and carried the heavy guilt of a curse. He had to figure out how to rebuild an entire identity from scratch, completely cut off from the power he was born into. The exiled prince crossed the sea to Bali during the era of the Galgal kingdom. Once he finally arrived, he made a conscious choice to bury his royal lineage. He abandoned the name Satria Wangsa entirely. Instead, he called himself Rare Angon, which translates directly to shepherd boy. He settled at Bukit Buluh. As this vintage photograph illustrates, the rural landscape here was defined by agriculture, and Rare Angon spent his days watching over 2 cows, a local symbol of prosperity. He wasn't raising an army to take a new throne. He was simply tending to livestock. Over time, the local community recognized his quiet intelligence. His guidance proved so valuable that the king of Gelgel appointed him as a royal advisor, granting him the title Ki Mantri Tutuan. He secured a position of high respect without ever demanding it. By accepting a life of service and humility in a foreign land, he achieved a level of influence he could never have won through force. When dealing with oral traditions of curses and exiled princes, we must look for physical evidence to figure out what happened in the historical record. We start with this timeline. The earliest hard proof of his lineage is an ancient copper-plate inscription known as the Prasasti Ujara Kanda, securely dated to the year 1298. But here is where the dates get tricky. The local myths place his life firmly within the Gelgel Kingdom era, which doesn't actually begin until you fast forward to the 14th century. That leaves a clear gap between the physical dating of the inscription and the stories told by the locals. Yet, if you visit the Gunaksa region today, nobody is arguing over dates. The community universally attributes their agricultural and economic prosperity to his arrival. The exact years might not align, but the physical temples and thriving communities remain. The reality of his life survives somewhere right in the middle of hard archaeological data and deeply held local belief. Moving into the modern era, the descendants and followers of the prince formalized their community, creating a massive, organized network across the island known as the Tutuan pasemetonan. They remained closely tied to their ancestral temples until Mount Agung erupted in 1963. This striking photograph shows the immediate aftermath of that event, which forced tens of thousands to flee their homes, scattering the Tutuan followers across Bali and to other islands. Rather than fading away, their traditions expanded. In 2022, local scholars published a comprehensive new book on his history, and in 2025, the community officially registered a brand new dedicated temple in Gianyar. The forced migration didn't erase his teachings. Instead, it pushed his followers into new territories, effectively amplifying his presence and proving the resilience of the community he built. It is a remarkable irony. A royal heir who lost his entire kingdom ended up achieving an almost immortal status in Bali, precisely because he learned to live with nothing. He didn't let a curse or an exile define him. He reinvented himself in the simplest way possible, pouring his energy into serving his new neighbors. If you look at this graphic recreation of the official crest for Gunaksa village today, you won't see a crown. you see the distinct figures of a humble shepherd boy and his 2 cows, permanently woven into their civic identity. The powerful kingdoms of Majapahit and Gelgel eventually collapsed and faded into the history books, but the prince who chose to put down his sword and pick up a shepherd's staff is still uniting thousands of people today.